Our last topic is going to be the NBA. GMs were polled on what player in the NBA they would choose to start their franchise with. Turner's going to tell us a little bit more on his thoughts on it.
So, so what happens every year is that the NBA, excuse me, they have a GM survey, which is usually an exercise in futility, trying to understand how these people have jobs. But this year, for me, it was pretty interesting, and here's why I think if you were starting a franchise today and you could sign any player in the NBA, who would it be? And a few things surprised me by the answers. For those who don't know, Karl-Anthony Towns was one at 48.3. He's one of my favorites. The second was actually Durant at 20.7, and the third was LeBron. So a few things there caught my attention. First, the GMs actually acknowledge Cat and that he has the potential to be great, and he looks like he's going to be great. He looks like he's going to be the next prototypical center. Can defend the post, can defend pick and rolls, guards on switches, hit the three. So that's good that they finally acknowledged that. Um, Second was the fact that they actually said LeBron is still a choice even at 31 and in his 14th year. I, again, everybody knows I'm a big LeBron fan, but that just seems a bit that's a bit of a stretch, only because at 31, how much longer are you going to be at that elite level? And then the fact that Steph Curry was not in the top three. I think I was talking to someone about this earlier, and I think I had two trains of thought on this. The first one was I think people still have trouble determining who's the driving force in Golden State, whether it's him or whether it's Draymond Green and now it's Durant, or people are still turned off by his finals performance from last year. He was clearly injured, but but he still played. And I think some of the sheen has kind of I guess dried off on him because of the finals performance from last year. Personally, I agree with Kat. I think he has the potential to be the best player, not just big man, best player in the NBA in 3 or 4 years. Um, I'm not sure about Durant too. Nobody picked Westbrook. I mean, Westbrook was one of the ones that was there, but I guess in older guard. I mean, not older, but he's relying on his athleticism. And Anthony Davis was an 86.2 last year, and he was one of those also receiving votes this year. So that kind of just shows how far the luster is off of him. I just think that these are the same GMs that said Kobe should take the last shot, despite copious amounts of evidence that said that Kobe's one of the last people who you should have taken the last shot. I appreciate the fact that they were aware of Cat. I really do. I just think that when you're building a team, it's a lot of factors and a lot of things to look at. I think versatility should be number one, and they recognize that with Cat. They also feel like with Curry's role now, I feel in Golden State, him not asking to be much of a playmaker and more of a shooter, and then with his finals performances, I think that had a lot to do with why they wouldn't build around him. And he's older than people think. He's actually 28. Like he's not young, like well, I don't want to say Ricky Rubio, like a Cat. Right, 28's not old, but this is his 8th year in the league already. So
Mm-hmm.
he's halfway really towards the end of his career already. So his skill is not shooting is not going to, it's last generally forever. But I could see why they didn't have him in that top three.
I was kind of surprised by Curry not being higher just because of the fact that the league just seemed to be in love with him over the last couple of years. I think it goes to show that GMs don't have the same feelings about certain players as players and fans do. But I think that also is kind of the reason why certain teams are good and stay good and other ones aren't. It only takes one good GM to make a team successful. If you're the only GM that thinks this player is good and he ends up being great, that's a credit to you. But also the opposite of that is you can be that one GM who drafts in the top 5 every year because you don't know what the hell you're doing. LeBron James didn't surprise me because he's LeBron James. I honestly was kind of surprised by Kevin Durant. He's getting older. I feel like his game hasn't really progressed very far in the last couple of years. He's still a great scorer, one of the hardest guys in the league to stop offensively. But in a league that values the three-point shot now more than ever, I think the fact that he's more of a volume shooter than he is like a real threat, not to say he's not a real threat, but I think when you look around the league at guys now, especially those two in Golden State that are taking a lot of threes and making a lot of threes, he takes a lot of threes and makes a decent percentage. But you wonder if you're building another team around him, you know, would his attempts continue to go up? Would his percentages go up with it? And is he really the guy? I mean, there has always been concerns when he was in Oklahoma about him not being aggressive enough. And if that was because of him or because of Russ, whatever the case may be. I love Karl-Anthony Towns. Obviously, my favorite big in the league is Andre Drummond. But I do think Karl-Anthony Towns has the chance, like you said, to possibly be the best basketball player out there in a couple of years. I don't even know if it'll be 3 or 4. It may be a little bit more than that. But I think he's got a chance to be the real deal. I'm excited about him. I think just like everybody else, I would probably pick him to build a team around as well. Because if you've got a guy who can do everything he does, you can surround it with shooters and a couple of good defenders. You got something. I don't know that Durant's that same guy. I feel like Durant is still a guy that you need to put another superstar with. And that's why he would have been lower on the list for me. Anthony Davis, I love, but at this point, he just hasn't stayed healthy enough. And he's at that point now where you have to be concerned about if he can. I mean, has he played 82 games yet in the season? I don't know that he has. I don't know that he will.
No, the most games he's played, I think, was 66.
And I know
66, I believe. I'll tell you right now, but go ahead.
I know that the team has been excited because he put on 15 or 20 pounds, something like that, since last season. But I'm starting to think, I mean, this isn't the first time he's done it. I just don't know that putting the weight on, that putting the weight on is going to make a bigger difference as we want it to, maybe just because of his style of play. He does get up and down a lot, jumps and all that kind of stuff. I don't know that he's physically is going to hold up. And just for the record, I'm one of those guys that doesn't have a problem with Kobe taking the last shot compared to anybody else he's had on his team the last 4 or 5 years. When you look at the Lakers, there may be guys in the league I'd rather have take a shot if I had to pick one guy in the world. But, I mean, GM's going to go with what they trust.
Even if it's wrong or inaccurate. Okay. Like you said, that's why some GMs are good and others aren't.
It doesn't take a whole bunch, you know. You just honestly, the difference between being a good GM and being a bad GM these days is only a couple of picks. I mean, how many teams are in the league right now who connect on every draft pick? I mean, I'm a Bulls fan, and I was reading an article earlier today that's talked about how we've missed on so many picks, but we also got Jimmy Butler in a late first round. The jury's still out on Nico, but Mirotic is possibly gonna be good. I don't know. I have my concerns about him. Well, we've had some pretty good pickups in the last couple of years, but when you look around, Oklahoma City is a team that a lot of people talk about drafting really well, but after Russ Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, and Durant, they went a couple of years without really getting anybody who contributed a whole bunch. Obviously, Steven Adams has kind of changed that, but there was a point in time where they really weren't doing a whole bunch in the draft. So there's only a few picks these days that separate being a good GM from being a bad one. So it's just a matter of getting those couple picks right.
I'm going to weigh in here real quick for y'all. I hate this question. who would you start? Like, just like you just said, last year Anthony Davis had 86% for this question, but in a year he's not in the top three anymore. And kind of like what AJT said, well, you're not sure that he can stay healthy. Well, crap. Uh, what is it? Carl Townsend? I can't
Kark-anthony
pronounce.
Towns.
Anthony Towns. I barely know the guy. I'm not gonna lie to you, but he's 20 years old. You don't know if he's gonna be able to last in 4 or 5 years. So like, just taking that risk, like when you're asked this question, like who would you build a team around? You're looking for a player who's played long enough that you can tell what he's done and what he's going to do, but you also don't want a player who's played too long, like a LeBron James or even a Kevin Durant, where you feel like you already know what's in his future and it's not enough. So you have some GMs who are going to say, I'm going to go with a young guy and pick off of his pure potential. And then you have
Right.
other people who say, I'm going to go with what I already know and hope that it lasts longer than it should. And it goes back to what you were talking about, Alan. It's a hit or miss. I think this question is ridiculous because it's almost no way to answer it informed. Like anyone giving an answer isn't real. There's no way to like give an educated guess to this question because there's so many variables involved that you can't really say, well, I'm going to start a team around this. Like one, you want to start a team around one guy. There's so many other things involved. Like who do you put around him?
Yeah.
Get one guy. What if I tell you, okay, you can start with this one guy, but he takes all your cap and you can't afford any other good players around him? I'm sorry, you're not going to win. So I'll take a guy who takes less cap and I can put it other better players around them. There's so much more involved to this. We should expand the question. If you could pick a 12-man roster, who would you pick? And then see with no cap space and
Well,
see
I'll
what people do.
interject and say, I mean, NBA doesn't have isn't. I mean, they have max salaries, so there's a cap on even how much the great players can make. So it wouldn't be a case of one player taking all of the cap because one player can only take a certain percentage of the cap anyway.
Of course, but you saying you got one player, you're not telling me one what my other players are making. You're not telling me who else is on my team. I mean, I know basketball. I personally feel basketball is a little bit more of an individual sport. You can have depending on who you have, but you can't have a team with 2 or 3 stars and then a whole bunch of bums and expect to win. So to put a lot of emphasis on starting your team around one player kind of defeats the purpose of what GMs do. And it's just kind of like playing devil's advocate and asking them a loaded question because you know for a fact you would never build an entire team around one player. Nobody does that. There is no NBA team built around one player.
Well, we'll see
You can
about
put
that
out
because ain't nobody in Oklahoma City right now but Russ.
you can say what you want to, but the players that are in Oklahoma City, they're trying to get players that will work for Russell's style of play, but it's not for Russell because Russell cannot do everything they need. Russell cannot get all the rebounds they're going to need from missed shots. They
He
have
gonna
to try to find some.
He
He
gonna
will.
try.
This triple double machine, but you're going to see that GM is going to try to find. Can I get 2 post players who can rotate that can help crash the boards and maybe create some type of offense to help Russell? Now that's not around Russell because you have to find those players. You can't just say we're going to get Russell,
But
throw in some players and go. You have to find players that work for that team, and they're going to have to gel together. And at that point, you're not trying to placate one player. You're trying to appease the entire roster. Dude.
I don't think this
but
question
you're
means
talking about
necessarily
your starting
one star and then 11 robots either.
What?
I don't think this question means you get 1 star and then 11 robots either.
Well, but that's the thing. It's an open-ended question. That's why I don't like the question.
We're starting a franchise today and could sign any player in the NBA. Who would it be? So you're essentially saying, who would you start your NBA franchise with? And you can. It isn't really open-ended. It's who out of everybody in the NBA, who would you want to build around that player?
It's so hypothetical. It's ridiculous because you like GMs. These people do this for a living, and you know for a fact that they would never get this situation where they could just pick one player and start a team. Like asking me or you, okay, that's a cool question, hypothetical. We do it, but the thing that I'm focusing on is that they're asking people who do this for a living to go into fantasy land. That's like asking a GM like who's on your fantasy football team.
Yeah, because
like, it's fantasy.
I mean, each of these GMs have favorite players.
I said I
time.
question for GMs. For us, I think it's an awesome question. But for a GM who that's what they do for a living, it's just I think it's just kind of disrespectful to what they do because it's kind of like trying to downplay what they have to do as an actual job.
I think every GM in the NBA has a favorite player, a favorite star that necessarily ain't on their team. So, I mean, just because you do this for a living doesn't mean you don't have that one guy where you think, man, I really wish I could, get this cat and apply my skills around what he does. Whether it's a guy you feel like is being misused on his team or, just a guy that you necessarily just feel like you could do better with or just would love the chance to try. Just because you do this for a living, if you are the GM for the Indiana Pacers, that doesn't mean you wouldn't love to have the first pick in a draft and be able to pick from whoever. You got a playoff team. Obviously, you're doing a good job, but that doesn't mean you wouldn't like to have a chance to go out and try one of these rookies or even Kark-Anthony Towns, a guy that you didn't have a chance to draft.
It's easier
because these players might become available in free agency that you'll be able to pick up, or something might happen and they might be available for a trade. Like essentially,
it's not like
who would you start with?
It's not like superstars aren't leaving these days.
Oh God.
Yeah, but it's also not like you get to start with a blank slate ever.
True.
That's the only thing that I don't like about it.
You can't win if you're the 76ers.
I think I probably would like the question better if it was like if you could add one star to your roster or something like that. Something that I think would be applicable for the GMs, I feel like it's just a really weird question that makes more conversation.
I actually see your point though. I actually do see your point because the way that you explained that, I mean, you took the question way too seriously, but that's okay but I honestly, not even trying to be funny, I see your point because the logic the logic and the way that you explained it, it kind of doesn't make sense because you're never going to really get a chance to pick these players. And the GM's job is to build the entire team. Yes, it's to build one player. I mean, hopefully you get a superstar and build around them, but most teams don't get that luxury to get a superstar and build around them. So yes, the GM's job is to build the entire team. You're absolutely right about that. And you do have to.
I understand what he's saying, but
of course, it's just a fun question. But
why would you ask somebody? Why would you ask who would you draft number 1 overall?
What?
What?
Did he freeze? Because I can't tell what he said.
I think it was a fun question to ask. I think that's all it was, just to see who the best player was.
Yeah, I agree with AJT. Of course, I took it way too far, but why not?
I understood what you were trying to say.
I said it.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did say it. You did say it.
Sure I said it.
You sure did. But yes, I actually understand your point, and it's rare that I actually fully understand what you're saying because, like, we just think differently. But like, I actually feel you on that. I really do. I think it's just a conversation starter, or something to put in Facebook groups to get people upset. But yes, I do actually legit see your point for real, and that's a different way to look at it. These GMs are dumb. Like I feel like yes, I feel like anybody in the group, you learn how to manage the cap. Like you got access to all types of information where you can evaluate players. I feel like I could do it. I feel like a few people in the group could do it. Like, I mean,
I do agree with you on that. I feel like a lot of GMs in the NBA do a horrible job at scouting talent and stuff.
Yeah,
because like what Hinton said earlier is like it's hit or miss. Like there's not that many players in the NBA on rosters, why is it such a hit and miss?
I mean, it's a lot of factors though outside of that.
I think
Like,
a lot of it's situational too, though.
yeah, I was gonna say, how hard are they gonna work? Like, you don't really know that. Like, I mean, what kind of culture are they in? Like, we just talked about DeMarcus Cousins. I think we was talking about that before we went live.
Yeah.
Like, DeMarcus Cousins, excuse my language, is in a shit organization. Like, and that's my team.
That's my squad.
I'm a Kings fan. And
I'm a casual fan, but yeah. Very casual.
like, our organization is a dumpster fire. Like, our owner literally talked about playing 5-on-4. Like, he literally in an article, Google it. I'm so serious.
Yeah,
He
no, it happened.
literally talked about wanting to play 5-on-4. This is our owner. Like, come on, yo. You got Vlade, who's a GM, has no idea what he's doing. Peja, who's my boy, he's his crony, and they just are flubbing up the entire organization. We have 5 centers on our team. If this was NBA Live 96, where like nobody had dribbling stats and everybody dribbled with the same speed, that would be dope. You'll grab literally everybody. This is not NBA Live 96. This is real basketball. You have arguably the best center in basketball. Then you have Cauley Stein. Then we got Scal.
Who they can't even get on the court.
Right. Then you got Costa Koufis, and then the guy from Greece who we drafted. I don't want to butcher his name. Why do we have 5 centers and none of them? The best person who stretches the floor is DeMarcus Cousins, and he needs to be the one inside. I don't get it.
On 2K, I'm putting in all them centers. And I'm just throwing it to the post. I'm not even taking it out the ball. I'm just throwing it into the post from like the out of bounds line into the post. Everybody, see what happens.
I mean, you can't even get the ball up the court unless DeMarcus brings it.
Just throw it down there.
Oh, okay, but you know how 2K do. Like, you're gonna throw the ball out of bounds at least 6 out of 10 times. If you're trying to
I was just hope that it actually goes and stays in the court.
Yeah, that'll be the funniest part. You trying to throw it in the post, and they just gonna be like trying to reach the ball, and they go, nah, man, nah. But yes, that was an interesting one. Other highlights from that GM survey, though, they said LeBron would win the MVP. Which player forces opposing coaches to make the most adjustments? That was LeBron. Which player is most likely to have a breakout season? Devin Booker, who looks to be very good, but he's trash on defense. I hate to say that. Best point guard was Steph. Best shooting guard was Harden. Best small forward, LeBron. Best power forward, Anthony Davis. And best center, DeAndre Jordan.
Quick question. Quick question. They said that Harden was best shooting guard.
Yeah.
Did he get snubbed last season?
Snubbed
that was by coaches and players, though, wasn't it? Don't coaches and players get reserve voting?
I don't think, if you mean snubbed by he wasn't on an All NBA team, then yes.
You know exactly what I meant when I said snubbed. I just didn't remember what the award.
No, I really didn't. Like, because you can be snubbed for a lot of things in basketball.
That's the only reason I brought it back up.
No, I mean, I don't think he made an All NBA team last year. So if that's what you're asking,
yeah. So what we're saying is the GMs think that he's he's the best shooting guard in the league, but the coaches and players don't agree.
Coaches,
something to look at.
I don't think
on that survey, one of the questions were which head coach makes the best in-game adjustments, and I initially just thought, oh, they're gonna have Pop on there, but Rick Carlisle is actually number 1 on that list.
Wow.
Pop is second, and Brad Stevens is third. Y'all's insight on that.
I actually agree with it.
Stevens
like Rick Carlisle is a magician. Somebody go look at Dallas's roster real quick and ask how they made the playoffs last year. Just go look.
True.
Like, somebody literally like they have a.
He's a great coach.
He's a great coach. So yes, I agree with that as far as the adjustments part. He does make chicken soup out of chicken shit. I definitely think that he needs to be in a position with better players. I mean, to really see what his coaching acumen does. Like there'll be games where like he'll go zone for like long portions of the game. Like do some funky zones too. Matchup zone. I'm like, I don't know. But like he has to adjust because this is probably the least athletic roster in all of basketball.
I think I agree with you on that. I think his coaching ability has kind of hurt him in that they don't feel like they necessarily have to have the highest caliber of players because he's going to be able to win games with them anyway.
So he needs a raise.
To me, he had. I don't want to say he is Bill Belichick, but he has that same type of essence. Maybe it's not a plug and play, and well, his Tom Brady has been dirt, but he runs a certain type of system where it doesn't really matter what players he gets the best out of them, except Rondo. But I mean, essentially, whoever gets there, you get the most you can from them, and he caters his system. He caters what he does to their talents. Whereas most coaches are, well, this is what we're going to run. This is what we're going to run. If you can't run it, then you just won't play. Which I do like that about him.
Yeah, I mean,
Russell Westbrook was most athletic.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised though he didn't get more out of McGee last year. And I don't know if that's just because JaVale McGee's a knucklehead or what. I mean, Salah looked really good throughout most of the season, but I really thought that, like you said, with their lack of athleticism, that he would get more time to play, and he really didn't.
Interesting. Who they have is the best moving without the ball. They got Klay Thompson number 1, Kyle Korver number 2, JJ number 3, and Steph number 4.
Man, I forgot Kyle Korver was still doing stuff.
I want to know.
He was in the league, dude.
So I guess Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't count as an international player.
He played at Kentucky, didn't he?
Yeah, but he was born in the Dominican. Well, he's Dominican American. As like if you ask,
that's like being American, huh?
I mean, if you ask Umar Johnson, there should never be anything American. I mean, anything before American. But I mean, if people consider Al Horford well, I guess not. Okay, never mind. But
I think it has to be something about like where you came from before you got drafted, like because Akeem Olajuwon wasn't considered international because he went to U of H, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Okay, I mean, I can see that.
Sorry, I don't have a lot of reference, but I think that's how they do it.
On that note, we are going to close. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for your time. Catch us on Twitter, @SportsPoliticking. You can follow us on Jamel Hill's followers list because I'm sure she'll follow us eventually.
Oh, God. Okay.
After the love that we showed her. Yeah, thank you guys, everybody, for watching. Everybody say goodnight.
Adios.